My name is Miri in Gossing.
And I'm Lina Sieckmann.
And we are an artist and filmmakers duo from Cologne, Germany, and are here with our first feature film, SIRENS CALL, which is circling around a siren, Una, coming to Earth and navigating life on a drying planet about topics like belonging, identity and transformation.
And it also shows a group of merfolk in Portland, Oregon that we've worked with. And yeah, it's going to be in the forum section, so come around.
Hi, welcome to the Teddy Award. My name is Zsombor Bobák, and this time we are talking about the film SIRENS CALL. Hi, welcome to the Teddy, welcome to the Berlinale. Thank you so much for being here and making the time to talk about the film. You have been working together for quite some time now on quite a few projects. Can you tell us a little bit about how did you two meet and how this creative collaboration came about?
Yeah, I mean, we could make it a long story because we actually grew up together in a rural town in North Rhine-Westphalia in Germany, so we know each other from our very early childhood. And we studied together at the Academy of Media Arts in Cologne and at the Art Academy in Düsseldorf. And at the Academy of Media Arts we decided that we join forces. I mean, we spend a lot of our way of life together already. Yeah. Then there was this one moment where a French cinematographer called Sophie Montaigneux joined our school, and she was like, you two should work together. And we were actually more in the fine arts background before that, so we were not really focused on doing film. And that's when it started. And so I think now, like 13 years later, we're still working in the same team, also with other people involved, and we live together.
Okay, well then it's a very close
pretty intense collaboration. Yeah.
It's really intense, and it's really cool because like we studied in Cologne all together. A lot of people stayed in Cologne. It's also funny, our roommate, he has a film in this year's Berlinale competition, so it's really like one big family. And I think it's
It's nice to share an experience
Definitely.
like that with such a close and tight group. Let's talk about the film. It has a very interesting premise. We follow some really intriguing and exciting characters in this film. Can you tell me a little bit about how did you find your characters for the film and how this idea came about?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's funny, it first started actually here in Germany, where we found people that were in a swimming course, and it was like these images that we found were like in a super domestic setting, like indoor swimming pool, like rural Germany, and then all of a sudden this very glamorous, glittery tales, and we were interested in that desire that came from these images. And then we were researching, and we found that this is really like a global movement, that there are people identifying as merfolk. And then we found Una the mermaid online, trauma psychologist, who actually says that she really identifies as a mermaid. She says, it's also one sentence in the film where she says, like, I'm part human, I recognize that, but I'm not full. And that was something that was really striking for us. And then we decided we wanted to work with that group that Una had created in Portland. That was also yeah, not only dressing up or using the figure for show or entertainment, but really had some political agenda with it. And that was really the moment where we said, okay, we want to work in Portland and go on that track. Yeah. And that was like 7 years ago from now. Yeah.
Sure. For me, it was also like a little bit when we thought about the figure of the mermaid and the siren from when we were started getting interested in the topic. There's like this very like strong connection to queerness, and somehow it was like always like something, this fantastic figures like vampires and mermaids, which were like this escape fantasies when you were a child somehow. Yeah. And I thought it's so interesting that the way like the people we worked with or collaborated with like had a different definition of like the mermaid stories or like siren stories we know, where it's mostly a pretty tragic female character that is like longing for love, has to give up her voice for the love of a man, and like then becomes foam at the end in the ocean. And so we sort of like, out of a queer feminist perspective, how can we like find a narration that like still has like some of these elements, but deconstruct them or transform them in a new way. And when we found Una, it was just like, oh my God, she's like embodying all this like thoughts or like also like theories we were interested in at the time, and living this. And so yeah, we instantly had like a very like deep connection somehow, and we also decided to go on this process together and not give it a script from our side and like push that on her, but really develop over the years. I mean, it was a 4-year-long shooting process.
I see. Yeah, but this is really interesting that you say this kind of really strong and distinct departure from this historical idea and image of the siren, of the mermaid. Because like I was also thinking about this, and the film also puts it very clearly in the beginning. We see these kind of historical images of sirens and mermaids, that this is like a very different narrative compared to what we are used to. And I'm very interested to hear your thoughts a bit about this, because as you say, the mermaid has been for a long time a figure, a creature that resonates with queer people. And here we see a group of people who really embody elements of that kind of narrative. So I'm really interested to hear how did you see this kind of queer idea of the mermaid translates into the lives of the characters that you encountered and that you worked with throughout these 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the interesting thing. No? On the one hand, there's this very heteronormative narration of Disney, Ariel, Hans Christian Andersen, like lots of mythologies, and then there's like, it's always been, if you think about something like Jack Smith, like the iconic mermaid figures in a lot of like queer experimental movies, which is also like, I would say, like the place where we are coming from artistically, like more out of a experimental film world, art kind of film world. And there this figure is of course like so special, or like I find it so special because it has like this hybridity of gender, this fluidity. And with Una, I think it's even going to another point where you're not like just like being fluid between gender, but you're also being fluid between human and nature, human and technology. And I find that is like maybe bringing that to that queer aspect to a new form or to a new way of like being or wanting to be connected to the world, that I find pretty interesting and fascinating, and somehow So there are these different strands, and I think which combines this is like also like this moment of longing for like another world or like another form of being.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, because to me, in a way, what was really interesting to see is that this way of being, this way of thinking and looking at the world is sort of also creating a kind of bridge between different realities or different ideas, and this hybridity that you mentioned, that, and not just like gender hybridity, but also, I mean, of course, it's a species hybridity in a way, where different ways of existence meet in one creature, and this kind of bridging between different worlds was to me very prominent in the film. And also it seemed like that this group of people, they are very conscious of this position that they occupy. I don't know if you can tell us more about that. How did you experience that? How did that manifest itself while working together on this film? If you just can say a few
depends,
words.
no, on how conscious they are actually.
I mean, yeah, that's the interesting thing. I totally agree. Like, we have such a diverse group. Everyone is different. But then, I mean, it comes together in this figure, and it's also thinking about kinship. No? How do we want to live together? And it's the great thing is really everyone is different, but in this figure, they form like an alternative way of like being together as a community. It's new, I mean, ideas maybe even of family in the film. Like Una is living with Moth. It's completely, challenging, I think, conventional notions of that. And also with these people that we were working with, it's been such a long process, and we really, I mean, we almost lived there for like 4 years, like several months of the year. And yeah, I gotta say that it really it changed us also in the making of the film, definitely.
Yeah. And what about like the consciousness and the concept? I mean, we talked for hours and hours and hours with them, and of course, like in the movie, there are some moments where we also had the feeling they're bringing something to the point in their own words that is the potential, or like even like the utopian, sometimes dystopian, depends on which part of the film we are at, moment of this figure or this way of being. And I think there were even like interesting things happening in the process where I was like, oh yeah, sometimes when I have the feeling you're really channeling what you're saying, because she's improvising incredibly like speeches and talks sometimes, and I was like, sometimes I feel like you were like an Atlantean oracle, and like then she's like saying, hey, actually in the pandemic I started giving oracle talks via Zoom, and I was like, so we were influencing each other sometimes with the ideas, or things were already there, and you can't really say sometimes what was first, like our like fictional figure, then Una's like perception of her persona, and I found that very like interesting, and it always made us be in a very awake state of collaboration, where we would all like not being fixed on one position, and this is what we want to achieve, but like really trying to be open and going with this process, which I also find interesting, like for filmmaking, because it's not so often possible anymore to work in these conditions.
And I imagine that it was very inspiring also in many ways, because this hybridity is not only present on a narrative level and in the lives of the subjects that you are working with, but also in your visual world that you create and through which you tell this story. So can you maybe tell us a little bit more about the visual identity of the film that you created?
Yeah. Also about the form, no?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe it's also important to say that it's really like a mixture of documentary and fiction, and this is something we've always done in our films before, that really we start with something documentary, but then it turns into fiction. And I think this is really crucial for this film also, because yeah, we have this interview situation right at the beginning, and we ask Una, how did it all begin? And this is like really based on the interviews that we had, and then we follow the narration that Una tells us. So yeah, I think that is something that creates the tension, and then also we were aiming like for these different genres that the film traverses through. Yeah, and also I think that was really important that we have this sort of both tension, that it's really based in reality, and this is also what is special about Una, that she's saying that I am this figure, and we didn't want to question that. We didn't want to give psychology or look behind the curtain or something, just say, okay, we go with it, and then we see what happens. And yeah, like we said, it's been a crazy process, and we had to open ourselves very much up. I think it's also, I mean, very much about the struggle to connect and the struggle to get in contact. I mean, with yourself, with others, with the world. And I think this also was something not only in the film, but also within the process of the film. It was this trying to connect, and how do you connect? How do you open up? So, yeah.
Yeah, and to the formal decisions and like the visuals, I would also say, I mean, we've been like doing, I think 9 short films before, and we always developed like our visual style very much out of photography, because we were more doing, I was also doing performance art, and Lina was doing photography, me too. And so it started like always that we were working with very fixed camera settings, that we were like thinking often about what does the environment, what role does architecture and environment play in the constitution of a figure, of a character. Like very much, I think a lot of our films were also always like about the surrounding, and had not actually like too many people in it. And with the hybridity in the genres, we ask each other these questions like, do we need this genre anymore? Documentary fiction, also like what would happen if this figure is traveling through the genres? What if she's like first a science fiction figure, then goes on a road movie with a trans teenager, then it becomes a documentary of a subculture, and then a melodrama a la Safe or something like this. So we were like, having this question, and we started the film actually with an image, and like said to each other, okay, this is like what we're gonna do. It's an open experimentation. There's this film set as a laboratory at the beginning where these tales are sent out into the world, like somehow coming out of this birth machine. And we were thinking, okay, it's an open process. We don't know if this is gonna work out, but we had these questions, and we didn't wanna like do a film that is answering any question or is like having a clear statement, but more, going on a search together, and taking the viewer hopefully with us on a process where he has to also like fill in a lot of gaps and play an active role.
Definitely, and I think of what you just mentioned about that you also had to open up in this process. I think this is kind of what me as a viewer of the film also needed to do. Because you are confronted with something that maybe you are not really aware of. It's something completely out of your everyday life. And it was a very interesting process to go with these characters, follow Una, and kind of just sit there and open up to a completely new world and a completely different way of interacting with the world around us. So that was definitely an interesting journey to take. Taking back to the visuality of the film, one thing that stood out to me is that Una's character is very often placed in spaces that are maybe kind of a bit cold. They are through. There are a lot of transparent, translucid surfaces through which we see her, through which their character is framed. Can you tell us more about the intention behind behind this way of positioning Una's character in the film?
Yeah. I think she's also like a character that is like somehow like suffering under the world, no? And there's also, I would say, there's like empowerment and celebration, but there's also like a lot of pain and like melancholy in the film for me, at least. And this translucent, like oscillating between spiritual wellness, consumerist culture spaces are like somehow giving her an opportunity to even survive in the world. So it's her navigating her way through a drying out planet, and I think there's like some interesting questions for me coming up in which way our society is designed by now that like not only a mermaid is suffering, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, I mean, the aspect of show is very present. There's always some sort of distance element that really also, I mean, presents Una as a disconnected figure in a disconnected world. And we got a show. She is in Florida. She sees mermaids, but it's like it feels like a void in many situations. Like. So there's some uneasiness in the world. That is also an uneasiness within her. So I think it was important to place that figure also in the spaces that we found and to create the tension between those two.
Yeah, I still sometimes can't believe what we found. You know, every place we really found and it was we didn't build one set other than our. This is I just tell that other than the mermaid tail fabric at the beginning, everything else is found, and I'm still thinking like, oh my God, like what an image is it to actually buy your own breath, like to that breathing becomes a commodity, because we are not even like able to breathe fresh air anymore, and like I think. This kind of moments, and also her constant changing and like trying to find a way of being. Am I a woman? What am I? Am I a species? Is my body wanting to go back, or do I actually want to become human? I think it's like a lot of struggle, like internally going on. And I think the transparency in like staging her in this environment and like the wide shots also sets her in relation to the world, and not like saying, okay, that's your individual problem.
It was also interesting to see how, or to me, I had this feeling that the real world mostly sneaks in through sound. There are a lot of things going on in the background that like pull you back in from that kind of world that Una pulls you in. Can you explain us how did you constructed this soundscape and what was the intention behind it?
That's a great observation. Yeah, we worked with a sound designer in the Netherlands, Robert Kroos, and like right from the beginning we had the feeling, okay, on the one hand there's this perception that Una has. It's like this alien figure and she's walking through Times Square, but there's some sort of muffledness always. It's never like you hear the sound really clear. There's always some tone to it, and I think it was important to underline that. But then at the same time we work with that chapter structure, and we used sound to really also have this moment, okay, now we're back in reality. yeah, so I think there's a tension between like real, like O-tone sounds and sounds that go through a certain lens to underline the character's subjectivity. Maybe.
I think also when Una is first coming to the world, she's like somehow under a bell jar, like and also like she's like not, she didn't choose her body for me, no? She was like put into the world, and then somehow when we go on, like somehow through the sound, the world always gets her, or you always comes in, and like it's also like of course about how like so much of like media and media consumers infiltrating our reality like permanently. I think there's never like a quiet room where there's not radio, TV, phone, Instagram, or like coming in for her. And I think it's so interesting because I mean there's like maybe this alien reality, this like media political reality that is coming, her own inner world and inner reality maybe, and it's like interfering with each other like constantly. And I mean this is like the reality we live in all of us like constantly, and I think that's interesting that in a somehow fantastic narrative of a mermaid, you also can't escape the political situations we're all living in. Yeah. So and this what friction does that give, or does that place then? No.
Yeah, that was definitely one interesting thing to ponder while watching that. Like there's always something coming in, something, no matter in what kind of headspace you are, something always reminds you of the limits of that world that we all exist in. So that was very interesting to ponder while watching the film. I would also like to talk a little bit about the aspect of family. We already kind of touched upon this topic, because this becomes in the second half of the film definitely a big driving subject. What does community mean? What does family mean? And how do we relate to each other within those groups? But also, how do we represent those groups outside for the bigger context of society? Can you elaborate a little bit on these subject matters?
The subject of
kinship and family and.
I mean, the film, poses questions like that for sure. And I mean, Una is a figure who, like we said, comes to the world without a biography that is necessarily present to her or that she can grasp. There is some sort of past that she has in this human body that she landed in, but she can't really grasp it. And there's some sort of disconnection happening. And then she finds that group, and all of a sudden she's living with Moth together. They form like a home, you could even say, in Portland, and there's this group. But then we have this moment where she's looking at the photo album, where she's supposed to get some sort of, oh wow, that's my past, this is where I come from, this is my origins and stuff. And so that really doesn't come together in the end as well. And there's this question, like, what is a biography anyway? What does this story tell? That you look at the pictures in this book. And I think this is something also that we wanted to pose as a question. What does it mean? Where do you come from, and where do you want to go? Is maybe more important.
And also the fictionalization of your own memory. And like what kind of biography you are told by the people who raised you. And I think for me it's also like it was like very touching, and it's interesting to see like how much of like different perspectives or different situations the people like in the group, which is like really Una's pot. So their chosen family, how different they were, and like from what kind of different positions they are coming, and how they are like connecting and bringing their themes and their strengths in, and being able to form community and collectivity, and yeah, we see that sometimes in in like our left culture now, that like sometimes it feels so split up, and for me it was really touching to see it's not necessarily the right way to go, but there might be like things we have to fight for all together, or like, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. The interesting part to me about how the film traverses between different genres and different modes of filming and different modes of narration was that it kind of creates a temporal element in which this typical chronological way of passing of time is suspended, and you don't really know how much time is passing in between, and somehow it also doesn't feel really important all of a sudden, this whole concept of time, which on the other hand is constantly like pressing us into all sorts of things. So I'm very interested to hear more about the temporality that emerges in the film.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question, and it was like for a long time a huge part of our discussions also. How much time can we give the movie? How much can it expand? How does like different thoughts that were there from us from the beginning in forms of chapters like morph and move into each other, and also like deciding against this classical dramaturgical structure, and like more thinking it also in this wavy form of turns, like thinking in the next moment I'm thinking from another perspective, but I don't have like a protagonist antagonist hero's journey or something like that, which we found very important, to not like use this kind of structure in this way for our for this form of queer movie. We didn't want to have like this classical structures which we are so used to through mainstream movies, and this temporality is very interesting. Somehow it comes very intuitively from the two of us, that we sometimes need space to breathe in a movie, to have like also the possibility to write yourself in it, like to create moments where like maybe a voiceover or like images that are maybe even very empty, just like houses or rooms or like the places, are forming some sort of third space where you're not seen and you're not hearing the same thing, and then for me it evokes like a more dreamlike state where you can check in and out of the movie if you like to. And I think there are some filmmakers who are working in this way, which I find very interesting, and it is something I personally need to not feel too pushed into an emotion or something like this. I think, what would you say about like the temporality?
I mean, also thinking about Una as a character, it doesn't start with her being born and then she goes to school, like all this, no, she has lived in Atlantis, and all of a sudden she's in the world, and she's in the body of a 40-year-old woman. And then, the temporality is, as well as the film in itself, it doesn't follow like, okay, now is this, and then is this. I think we couldn't even do that. I mean,
I'm also neurodivergent, and I think in associations more. I was just like thinking, when we think about the structure, I remember when Lina was saying, okay, now she's on the demo, but then she's having the stream, and then she's there, and I was like, that's a normal week for me. You know, like I find it interesting that somehow we are jumping very quickly in and out, and one moment leads to another moment, which doesn't has to be chronologically connected, but might be emotionally connected, or doesn't make sense at all, but it felt right. You know what I mean?
Very
like
small things get important. It's like a small encounter, chance encounter, changes
on
everything.
A Walmart parking lot.
And it's a lot about also stumbling into things. There's not a fixed structure for her to develop, and so that was, I think something that was important to us, and also allow chance in the making of it.
Yeah, maybe it's also even something I would like think it's important to state, that there's like still something that you're not alone, even in the making of the movie and what is happening. There's something that you can't control, and I think that's embraceable. Like in life.
Exactly. And I think that has like also a lot of power to it when you because our life is so strictly and strongly structured through time that when you diverge from that kind of time corset that we are all pressed into in one way or another, that really opens up possibilities to reflect on your reality, to rethink your reality, to reimagine your reality, and I think that can really propose spaces and moments of liberation for a lot of people. So I think in that way, and of course in this particular narrative, it also, like, just through the character and, as you mentioned before, biography, and what does that mean, and in general, what do we do with our biography, that also really like kind of feeds into this idea of temporal suspension and a bit of challenging that kind of idea of time passing and time moving into one straight direction. So that felt definitely very strong in the film. And another element, of course, in our life that also dictates and determines a lot of things that we do and how our life transpires is the body in which and through which we exist. And this topic also is, of course, really important in the film and really important for this community and merfolk. And I felt like that Una has a very interesting approach to body and this idea of a body being a fixed element of your life. Can you tell us a little bit about this particular topic and question of the body in Sirens Call?
Yeah, I think especially what we were placing from the beginning, she is thrown into a body at the beginning, and she doesn't know. At the beginning, I would say she doesn't know about it, about the biography it is inhabiting and this kind of things. And later on, I think there is, like, for me, there's this ambiguity in it, that somehow wanting to become human and like fit in, and this one force, and then there's the other force of like the body wanting to become more than human, and like rebelling against this constructions that might this world might put on her, and I think in a lot of ways there's like this feeling of her body she's even mentioning that in one moment, like my body is, my skin is expiring, like somehow I have to get a new skin, and also in which is very interesting, also in her life, Una is wearing like a different wig every time. It's like very much transcending like this concept of a fixed style identity. This is like who I am through that, and we actually never know how she's gonna come to that, which was like also like very interesting then in the editing, né? Because like the person is also in the movie like very often changing from one situation to the other and looking completely different, and at the then there's also this aspect of illness of the body, which is an important aspect, and the film was also shot during the pandemic, and Una is a chronically ill person, and I think also the search how to navigate that, and this like topics like illness and immunity also played an important role for us in like thinking about this film. And her breathing is like constantly like suffering, and this is like was an interesting dialogue between like things that are an actual part of Una's life, and I think at the end, I mean, is it like I don't spoil my own film right now? I'm not talking about the
No need to spoil.
But
people will watch it and see.
She's transferring more and more in the movie.
Exactly.
And her life seems to be like a constant transformation.
Yeah.
Which is never ending, and this is like also like the way the body is staged in the movie, I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. At some point, Una also says in the film that kind of these two different realms between our world and between the world of mermaids is kind of coming together slowly, which then would allow the wisdom of merfolk to be passed on to this other realm as well. And I'm sure that in these long years that you collaborated together with Una, some wisdom was passed on to you as well. And surely when someone watches the film, everybody can take something with them. But I'm very curious, what did you learn from Una and from this community throughout the filming process?
Wow, that's hard to summarize in this in a short way. I mean, a lot of things. I mean, I think what was really striking for us was like it was a community that was also kind of vulnerable. Everybody has their background, so to say, and I think they were really from their situation while being solidarity with each other, creating this way of living that allows them to feel connected in the world. And I think that was really something that we found astonishing and very
I mean, also like after 7 years we moved to Portland. They are like partly our closest friends now, like if it's our team or so there was like a lot of like I would say interaction and interdisciplinary wisdom shared from both sides somehow. And I think somehow that one thing I find especially astonishing and also especially painful is like living in the United States as a person minority background, being queer, like it has like another level of suppression and pain you are taking every day, and they are like really like resilient in a way, in like maybe also different than in Germany. You don't have like this dependence on the state, and then there's a lot of like energy getting free from really building things up together. And I find that like still something that that touched me deeply, and that also changed the way I see the world, because they were also so resilient to all that pain they were experiencing, or like this problems that society, and especially Trump era American society, puts on people like us.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a challenging time. So
yeah.
Resilience is a good and needed thing to take away 100%.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the conversation. It was very enlightening. I wish you all the best for the Berlinale. Enjoy the festival, have a lot of fun, and I wish you great success with the film.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.